gave them your time first. That was the easiest thing to take. A night here, a morning there, a weekend you were supposed to keep for yourself, a year you thought you would get back somehow. You kept saying yes because yes made you feel useful, and useful felt close enough to loved. So they took the hours, then they took your attention. That one was more expensive. You started waking up thinking about their problems before your feet touched the floor. You checked your phone before you checked yourself. You learned the temperature of every room before deciding which version of you was allowed to enter. Happy enough, calm enough, useful enough, never too tired, never too angry, never too honest. You learned to adjust. That is how people disappear. Not all at once. In adjustments. A little less truth. A little more patience. A little more tolerance. A little less sleep. A little less ambition. A little less you. Nothing dramatic. That is what makes it dangerous. Nobody notices a man vanishing if he keeps showing up. And you showed up. God, you showed up. When you were exhausted. When you were angry. When you had nothing left. When your own life was asking for attention, you still answered everybody else's call. You became the man people trusted with their emergencies. They knew you would come. They knew you would answer. They knew you would figure something out. And because you always figured something out, they slowly forgot that figuring it out cost you anything. That is the strange punishment of competence. The better you become at carrying weight, the more people assume you were built to carry theirs. So they handed you more. Their fear, their guilt, their chaos, their broken promises, their bad decisions, their unfinished responsibilities, and you carried it. Not because you were stupid, because you had a code. If you love someone, you help. If you give your word, you stay. If somebody is drowning, you do not stand on the shore, explaining boundaries. You jump. You were proud of that. You should be. There was honor in it. But honor without limits can become a slow form of self-destruction. You did not know where the line was. They did not care. So the line kept moving. First it was your time, then your peace, then your standards. That one hurt more than you admitted. There were things you once said you would never accept. You remember. Clear things, simple things, disrespect, lies, being ignored, being used, being spoken to like your loyalty was a permanent contract. You knew your standards until the person crossing them mattered to you. Then suddenly standards became negotiable. You started writing exceptions. They were tired. They were stressed. They did not mean it. They had a hard childhood. They are going through something. Maybe you should be more understanding. Understanding. That word nearly emptied you. Because you understood everybody. Everybody except yourself. You understood why they lied. Why they disappeared. Why they snapped. Why they broke the promise. Why they needed space. Why they could not show up for you the way you showed up for them. You understood everything. And every explanation became another shovel of dirt over your own anger. Until your anger could barely breathe. That was another thing you gave them. Your anger. Not rage. Not violence. The clean kind. The useful kind. The part of you that says, that hurt. That was wrong. That cannot happen again. You kept silencing it because you wanted to be mature. You wanted to be the bigger person. You wanted to prove that pain could not make you ugly. So you swallowed it. Again. 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 And people got comfortable with a man who never made them pay attention to what they were doing. That is what happened. You protected people from the emotional cost of hurting you. Then wondered why they kept doing it. You made consequence disappear. You turned pain into private work. They did the damage. You did the healing. They made the mess. You cleaned the room. They broke trust. You became more understanding. Look at that equation. Look at it honestly. Who was paying? You. Always you. And still, you kept going. Because part of you believed sacrifice was proof. If you loved enough, maybe love would finally be returned correctly. If you gave enough, maybe somebody would notice the weight of what you were giving. If you stayed long enough, maybe staying would be honored. If you bled quietly enough, maybe one day somebody would look at the floor and ask where all that blood came from. Nobody did. Or worse, they saw it. And learned you would survive. That changes people. Once someone believes you will survive anything they do, they stop being careful with you. Not everybody, but enough. Enough to teach you something you did not want to learn. Being strong can make you easy to abuse if strength has no border. You learned that late. Late enough to lose more than time. You lost parts of your personality. You stopped laughing the same. Stopped trusting the same. Stopped getting excited before good things happened because experience had taught you to wait for the hidden cost. You entered rooms scanning. You read pauses, tone, distance. You noticed everything. That was not who you were before. Before, you walked into people like doors were meant to open. Now every door looked like something that could lock behind you. They called you guarded. They did not ask what taught you to guard. They called you distant. They did not ask how many times closeness had been used against you. They called you cold. They never asked how long you had been standing outside in weather they created. And still you kept giving.
Zeus stabs the sky with thunderbolts.
That is the part that should scare you. Even after the lessons, even after the signs, you kept reaching into yourself and finding something else to hand over. Your sleep. Take it. Your money. Take it. Your plans. Maybe later. Your dignity. Just this once. Your boundaries. Okay. But do not do it again. Your future. We will figure it out. You gave until giving stopped feeling generous and started feeling compulsory. That is when the soul gets quiet, not peaceful. Quiet. There is a difference. Peace breathes. This was numbness wearing clean clothes. You still functioned, still worked, still answered, still smiled in photos. That is why nobody panicked. You were useful. Useful men are allowed to collapse as long as they keep performing. And you did. Then came the day something inside you checked the shelves. Nothing. That is the moment nobody prepares you for. You reach for patience. Empty. You reach for another explanation. Empty. You reach for another chance. Nothing. You search for guilt. Strangely quiet. You search for the old fear of losing them. Gone. You search for the part of you that always found one more reason to stay. Nothing. And in that empty room, something moves. Not loudly, not dramatically. Just one set of eyes opening in the dark. That is the monster. Not the thing they created. The thing they failed to take. The final piece. The part of you that existed before approval. Before guilt. Before all the training that taught you to be useful at your own expense. The animal part. The ancient part. The part that understands one rule before every philosophy, every relationship, every promise. Survive. That is why it feels dark. Because survival is not polite. Survival does not care whether everybody understands your decision. Survival does not write a paragraph explaining why the wound is too deep. Survival does not negotiate with a hand that keeps reaching for the same cut. It moves. It closes the door. It leaves. It protects what remains. For years, you thought that part of you was dangerous. Maybe it was, but not in the way you feared. You thought the monster wanted destruction. No. It wanted boundaries. You thought it wanted revenge. No, it wanted distance. You thought it wanted to hurt people. No, it wanted you to stop volunteering for pain. That is darker because it is simpler. The monster did not need them to suffer. It needed them to lose access. Huge difference. Pain wanted revenge. The monster wanted quiet. Pain wanted them to understand. The monster did not care. Pain wanted an apology. The monster had already left the room. That was the first time you understood why they were afraid of your silence. Your anger had always been safe. Anger meant attachment. Anger meant you were still emotionally inside the relationship. Still fighting. Still hoping. Still trying to be seen. Silence meant something else. Silence meant the contract had expired. The monster does not argue after the decision is made. That is what changed you. You stopped trying to win conversations. Started winning back hours. Stopped trying to prove you were right. Started noticing whether the relationship was right. Stopped asking what they meant. Started watching what they repeatedly did. Stopped needing every ending to feel fair. Some endings are not fair. They are necessary. That word became sacred. Necessary. Was it necessary to answer? Number necessary to explain? No. Necessary to forgive again? Maybe forgiveness, not access. Necessary to stay because there was history. History is not a command. Necessary to sacrifice your sleep because somebody else refused to plan? No. Necessary to rescue the person who keeps creating the fire? No. One by one, unnecessary sacrifices died, and people noticed. Of course they noticed. The person who always had one more piece to give suddenly had closed hands. They called you selfish. That word used to work. It hit the old you like a bullet. Selfish. You would panic. No, you do not understand. Let me explain. Let me prove. Let me give more. Now, the word lands and falls. Maybe you are selfish in their version. Fine. Their version required you to disappear. You are done auditioning for innocence inside stories written by people who benefited from your guilt. That is the monster speaking. Not loud, just final. There is something terrifying about finality. Most people are used to emotional reactions. They know how to wait out anger, how to answer accusations, how to manufacture a soft moment after a hard week. They know how to reopen old doors. But finality has no handle. You cannot manipulate a man into wanting what he no longer wants. You cannot guilt a man back into a room he has finally seen clearly. You cannot threaten loss after he has already mourned it. That is what emptiness taught you. When there was nothing left to sacrifice, fear lost its currency. What were they going to take? Your approval, already gone. Your access, you were the one closing the door. Their version of you, keep it. That man belonged to their memory anyway. You had spent years protecting an image. The dependable one. The patient one. The loyal one. The good man. That last one owned you. Good man. You were so afraid of becoming the bad guy that you let other people become comfortable doing bad things to you. You thought goodness meant endless tolerance. The monster laughed at that. Not because goodness is foolish, Because goodness without self-respect becomes permission. That was the correction. You did not need less heart. You needed a spine under it. You did not need to care less. You needed to care with selection. You did not need to become cruel. You needed to become expensive. That is the word, expensive. Your time should cost something. Your trust should cost consistency. Your loyalty should cost loyalty. Your access should cost respect. Your forgiveness should not automatically include another key to the house. You had been giving sacred things at clearance prices, then wondering why people treated them like cheap objects. The monster changed the price. That is why some people disappeared. Good. Not everybody who leaves when you create a boundary is a loss. Sometimes the boundary simply reveals who was there for the discount. Let them go. Watch who stays when you are no longer easy. Watch who can love a version of you that says no. Watch who can handle your ambition, your silence, your standards, your unavailability. Watch who respects your life even when it is not organized around theirs. Those people are different. The monster does not hate people. It improves the filter. That is all. And the filter saves years. That matters now. Years. You think differently about time after you have wasted enough of it. You stop treating life like an endless warehouse. It is not. There are only so many mornings. Only so many seasons where your body will move like this. Only so many chances to build what keeps whispering to you. Only so many people you can deeply know. Only so much attention. Only so much blood. So why were you spending your best years proving loyalty to people who could not prove consistency for a month? That question hurt. Good. Some questions should hurt. Pain opens rooms comfort keeps locked. You began counting differently. Not money. Cost. What does this person cost your mind? What does this job cost your body? What does this argument cost your night? What does this habit cost your future? What does saying yes here make you say no to somewhere else? Every yes spends something. You know that now. So the monster became an accountant. Cold. Precise. Does this deserve the cost? That question removed a lot of things. Not with rage, with arithmetic. You cannot emotionally manipulate arithmetic. 10 years is 10 years. 4 hours is 4 hours. One more chance is still one more piece of your life. You started respecting numbers. The number of times they said sorry. The number of times the same behavior returned. The number of mornings you woke exhausted because somebody else's chaos owned the night. The number of plans you postponed. The number of times you told yourself, after this, after this, after this, there is always another this. The monster stopped waiting. That is why your life started changing. You became harder to interrupt, harder to recruit into emergencies, harder to guilt, harder to impress with intensity. You started liking boring things. Sleep, routine, quiet, progress nobody saw, money not spent, work completed, promises kept to yourself. The old you needed emotion. The monster needed structure. Structure saved you. Not another speech, not another breakdown, not another promise that tomorrow would be different. A system. Wake up, move, work, protect the hours, keep the boundary, repeat. That is how you rebuilt after being emptied, not by becoming full overnight. By stopping the leaks. That is important. Everybody wants more energy. Stop the leaks. Everybody wants more confidence. Stop betraying yourself. Everybody wants more time. Stop donating it to nonsense. Everybody wants peace. Stop reopening doors that already showed you what lives behind them. You did not need more. You needed less waste. That was the monster's gift. Reduction. Fewer people. Fewer explanations. Fewer obligations you never chose. Fewer conversations where truth gets buried under politeness. Less noise. More force. A river becomes powerful by direction. So did you. You stopped spreading yourself across everybody else's life. Started becoming concentrated. That changed your presence. People felt it. You spoke less, but meant more. You promised less, but kept more. You smiled because you wanted to, not because the room needed reassurance. You left when the room became expensive. You slept when your body asked. You worked when your mind wanted excuses. That is the version they call the monster. Funny. They liked you more when you were dying politely. They liked the soft eyes, the quick yes, the guilt, the accessibility. They liked the man who would bleed and then apologize for staining the floor. Now you walk in clean, and they call you cold. Let them. Cold things preserve. You had to preserve something, because you finally understood the worst possible ending was not losing them. It was losing yourself and still keeping them. That sentence ended the war. Not because everybody agreed, because you did. You finally agreed with yourself. That created a peace nobody could negotiate. And once you have that peace, old manipulation starts looking almost childish. The silent treatment. Enjoy the silence. Jealousy games. Play alone. Guilt. Return it. Threats to leave. The door is not locked. Promises. Show me Tuesday. Apologies. Show me change. Need. Need does not equal right. Love. Love without respect is hunger. History. History is not ownership. That is the monster's language. Short. Clean. No poetry needed. Reality became enough. And still, there is something you must be careful about. Do not become addicted to being the monster. That would be another cage. If darkness becomes your identity, then the people who hurt you still wrote your character. Do not give them that. The monster is not your destination. It is your guard. It stands at the gate. It says no when the old you would have surrendered. It watches the pattern. It protects the hours. But behind it, there still needs to be a human being. You, not the emptied version, the rebuilt one. A man who can laugh without checking whether everybody else is comfortable. A man who can help without needing to be needed. A man who can love without disappearing. A man who can forgive without forgetting the lesson. A man who can be kind without becoming cheap. That is the goal. Not colder, clearer, not feared. Free, not untouchable. Selective. The monster keeps the gate. You build the home. That is how you stop pain from becoming your personality. You use it. You do not worship it. You learn the lesson. Then stop reopening the classroom. That is where most people fail. They survive betrayal, then spend the next 10 years proving they are no longer capable of trust. They survive being used, then become proud of never needing anyone. They survive being abandoned, then abandon everyone first. That is not strength. That is pain wearing armor and calling itself wisdom. You are going further than that. You are learning the harder thing. How to remain open without becoming unprotected. How to care without becoming available to everybody. How to trust slowly. How to say yes without betraying your no. How to let someone close without handing them the knife and telling them where you are soft. That is mastery. That is what the monster should protect. Your humanity, not destroy it. And one day the people who used you may see you again. Maybe they expect anger, maybe guilt, maybe some dramatic proof that what they did mattered. Instead, they meet a man who looks calm. That will confuse them, because they only knew two versions, the one who gave and the one who broke. They never expected the third, the one who learned. That is who you are becoming, the learned version, the one who knows how much a yes costs, the one who knows silence can be peaceful, the one who knows losing people hurts less than losing yourself, the one who knows love does not require self-erasure, the one who knows some apologies are real and still do not reopen the door, the one who knows being needed is not the same as being valued, the one who knows there is nothing noble about dying in installments for people who call it loyalty. That man does not need revenge. He already got something better, himself. So when they say, "What happened to you?" do not give them the whole story. They were there for enough of it. Just know the answer. You gave them everything. Your time, your sleep, your patience, your voice, your standards, your second chances, your years, your softness, your silence, your belief that if you loved correctly, everybody else would eventually learn how. You gave and gave until the shelves were empty, until the lights were off, until there was almost nothing left to take. And in the darkest room, behind everything you had sacrificed, one thing was still breathing. The thing that refused to disappear. The thing that did not need permission. The thing that knew the door was still there. The thing that finally stood up and said, "Enough." That was the monster. Not what they put inside you, what they could not remove. And maybe that is why you survived, because you gave them everything, until there was nothing left but the monster, and the monster finally remembered your name.